So why don't you all, you guys, you too, let's start lying down, since this is our gentle day. So come to lay down all the way on your back, and you can decide if having your knees bent with the feet on the floor might feel more comfortable, or you could also just lay flat, whatever you like. I'm gonna put this on my mute here. All right. And let whatever parts of your body are touching the floor, just let them settle in. Lengthen out. And start to take a little tour inside your body, of your inner landscape. Noticing what needs attention today. Those things are the things that usually talk the loudest, but maybe give a little attention also to what is not talking to you, what's quiet. So just take a few breaths here in this space of inquiry. Shifting your attention away from the subtle, or from the physical body, and more towards the subtle body. Noticing your breath and how it moves in and out on this day. As we know, it could be different at a different time. As our nervous system starts to relax, start to deepen and lengthen your breaths. As you breathe in, feel your belly grow upward. And then let that breath spread upward towards your chest. When you come to full, release the breath from the chest down to the belly. Just a little gentle squeeze as you come to empty. Inhaling with your Dirga Pranayama. And then exhaling to come back to empty. And we'll start to find our way at our own pace through Dirga Pranayama for a few more moments. When you're next full with breath, just take a pause, 1 or 2 seconds, with that full breath. And then let the breath go. Returning to your natural rhythm or pace, and just notice if your nervous system's relaxed just a little bit more. When you're ready to do so, bend your knees and bring the soles of your feet onto the floor so that you find a little bit of stability as we start to move. With your next breath, bend just your elbows and send your fingertips to the tops of your shoulders. And then straighten the elbows, extend your arms back down to your sides. So we're going to move that way just a few times. Bending the elbows, fingers to shoulders, and then arms straight again. super gentlest of warm-ups, starting with just one joint here. Next time that you bring your fingers to your shoulders, decide if your shoulders would like for you to reach your arms all the way up overhead. So bringing biceps up by your ears. And then bend those elbows, bring fingers to shoulders first, and then straighten your arms back down by your sides. So we change the pattern up a little bit. Fingers to shoulders first, reach it up overhead, and all the way back down. Now, as you reach up overhead, if you're choosing to do so, can you really get long here? The next time you have your arms up overhead, hold it here. Try not to let the very tops of your shoulders come up along for the ride. We want to keep them nice and low. And then arms still reaching up overhead, bend the elbows, grab either opposite wrists or opposite forearms. So you're kind of making a little hoop above your head. And then just let the arms feel nice and heavy in this position. See if you can press your shoulder blades down your back. Keeping your arms intertwined just as they are. Start to lift them up so that they're hovering above your chest. And then just switch which arm is on top. So you're going to do a little bit of a arm roll here. Bring the other arm on top. Re-grab your opposite elbows or wrists. And then draw the arms back up overhead, making that hoop above your head. So it just changes it a little bit if you have one arm on top or the other. It's going to give a little bit of a different stretch to your shoulders. And really broaden your chest here. Imagine you're trying to bring your arms apart. You're trying to press your elbows in opposite directions, but your hands are hanging on and not letting that happen. Now keep your arms still intertwined. Bring them back upward so they're just right over your chest. Walk your feet a little bit wider, about mat width apart. And we're going to twist our arms one direction and send the knees the opposite direction. Knees to one side, arms to the other. Bring it back to center, and then the other direction. And if it feels nice, especially in your shoulders, you might use one hand to kind of tug the other arm a little deeper into the twist. Only do that if it feels good on the shoulder and the arm. Otherwise, just let the movement and the gravity do the work for you. When you're next to one side, let's just stay here. Let's take 2 big breaths here, nice and slow, into the belly, to the top of the chest, and release. And when you reach that 3rd breath, bring it back to center. And let's bring it in the other direction. Drawing everything back to center. And bringing your arms back down. Let them go. Come on back down to the floor. Roll yourself over to one side. Doesn't matter which side. So we're just going to use our top arm to prop ourselves back up and come to seated. If you're a blanket sitter, find your blanket. Otherwise, just come to seated, and you can sit in any way that works for you. I'm going to be cross-legged because that's my favorite way to sit. whatever is pressing down into your mat, let it press down nice and heavy, as if you could change how heavy you were pressing down. Just imagine that you could. And let your spine grow upward, finding those natural curves in your back. Just letting them come into place. Don't force them into place, just let them be the way they are. Letting your eyes close for a few moments. We're going to start to do a little bit of work with our cat and cow. We're going to do it a little differently than how we usually always do it. We're going to break it up into pieces. So we're going to start by doing cat and cow just from about our waist downward. So if you want to just move your very lower back and move through, rounding just the lower back, and then arching just the lower back. So all it is lifting your tailbone and then pressing your tailbone forward. So sometimes it can be very subtle if you don't have a lot of flexibility in your spine. It's really just a little bit of rocking the pelvis forward and back. If you do that long enough, you start to feel it in your abs, which I always think is kind of surprising. It doesn't feel like you're doing a whole lot until you start doing it for quite a while. And let's just pause in a neutral spot. Take a breath in, fill the lungs, let the breath go. And then we're going to concentrate that same kind of movement, but this time from the waist to the chest. So just in this spot here, see if you could find rounding just in that spot, not letting your lower back come into it, not letting your head. And then try to just arch that part of the spine. And then just take it forward and back a few times. As I'm seeing, you, Abby, I think right there, has the same thing that I'm doing. Your shoulders want to do it all. That's where the challenge lies. Just a couple more times. So I know this can get a little aggravating. Sometimes it's bothering. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want to do this big, huge cat-cow. And then let's just pause, neutral spine. Let that go. We're not going to do it with the neck because that just doesn't sound nice tonight. But we are just going to let our chin come down towards our throat. Keep the rest of your spine nice and straight, but let your head hang heavy for a breath. And lifting the chin back to parallel with the floor. If you're sitting cross-legged, let's bring the other leg on top, the one that's on the bottom now. And we're going to come back to that little arm movement pattern. I'm going to be bringing it back in all throughout class today, so you'll get sick of it by the time we're done. So let's just start by straightening the arms out next to your sides. Then bending those elbows and sending the tips of the fingers to the shoulders. Just do that a couple times. If this is super boring, pretend you have 10-pound weights in your arms. If it's not boring and it just feels good, then go with that. And then this next time, we're going to add that extra bit on. Fingers come to shoulders, then lift the arms all the way up overhead. Exhale, fingers come down, extend the elbows. Good. Because we're all going to know this pattern very well by the end of class. Really put your breath into it. As you reach up, fill the lungs. And then let everything go as you bring it down. Next time those arms are up overhead, hold them here. Bend your elbows, grab either opposite elbows, opposite forearms, whichever feels better. And then press your arms just back a little bit. Not everybody's arms are going to be right above their head. It's not always going to work that way. Hang on with your hands, but press your elbows apart. And keep that tension of pressing the elbows apart, but also press the forearms up a little higher. Good. Release a little bit of that tension, keeping your arms together. Just bring them down in front of you. And switch which arm is on top. As you inhale, lift those arms up. Notice if it feels different with a different arm on top. Create that tension, elbows moving away from each other. And then forearms pressing upward. Ooh, you might start to get a little tremble in there. Let it go, bring the arms down. You can let the arms let go of one another. Bring your feet onto the floor. Out in front of you. I'm going to switch my direction. So feet on the floor with knees bent. And you can walk your feet, just bring them out in front of you somewhere where you can connect the soles of your feet on the floor. Grab onto your legs, either the shins or the backs of the legs. And then just sit up nice and tall. Try not to arch the spine here. We just want to get flat back. Press the soles of your feet down into the floor. If you'd like more engagement in your abs to start kicking in, lean back a couple of inches. And we're going to keep our feet on the floor. As you probably know, this is boat pose, or a version of boat pose. We're going to keep some of our feet on the floor. All I'm going to ask you to do is press down through the heels and flex your feet so the toes start to point upward. And keep that engagement of the heels pressing down into the floor so that you get a little bit of muscular action starting in your legs and also pretty deep in your belly. If you start to get tired, you can always come up a little higher with your upper body. Good. Now press your feet back down into the floor. If you are leaning back, come more upright. And then one more time, just slight lean back if you want that extra abs. Heels into the floor. Lift the balls of the feet up off the floor. So you want your toes to be pointing upward. Try not to let the toes curl towards your face. Bring the feet back down to the floor, come a little bit more upright, and bring both of your hands over onto your left leg. I'm going to switch again. So we're hanging on now just to that left leg. Send the right leg just out to the side, so right knee out to the side. And we're just going to lift and lower it a couple times. So it's kind of like butterfly, but just one-legged. Good. When that knee next presses outward, hold it here. Now flex your right foot. And if you like, keep the shape of this right leg. Lift the foot upward and just come up about a half an inch. And then set it back down, still hanging on to that shape. Lift the foot upward. If you like, lift the foot another half inch. Still hanging on to that shape. Then lower the foot down, but just halfway to the floor. And if it's still up, just set it back down. Let that knee move in and out a couple of times. Good. When the right knee is up, shift your hands over to the right leg. And we'll let left knee go in and out a few times. This is a great warm-up for your hip joint And obviously when we're lifting and lowering the leg, we're doing a lot of strength work. But just moving this knee in and out, so good for your hips, especially if they ache a lot. When that knee's next pressed out, hold it here. Make sure you're tall with the upper body. Create those right angles. Right angle at the knee, right angle at the ankle with your flexed foot on the left foot. Lift the leg up off the floor. Lift it really barely off the floor. And then let's set it back down. And once again, lift it up. Half inch. Lift it up another half inch. Let it lower just halfway. I lost track of my fractions, so I don't know how many inches were off the floor. Math yoga. And then let the foot come all the way down. Wag that knee in and out a few times. It's too late in the day for me to do math yoga, so you can figure that one out when you're doing relaxation. Bring both knees over to one side, bring your hands as well, and start to pull yourself up to hands and knees. Come into table. I'm gonna make some adjustments with my mat here so I don't run into my wall. And we're going to start here, once everybody gets up, we're going to start just by doing a little bit of wrist strengthening. This is my favorite wrist strengthener of lately. We'll just do it one time, just to give a little highlight of my favorite wrist strengthener of the week. So, within your standard table, if you are feeling stretch right here around your wrist, like in your forearm area, then you're going to stay here. If it doesn't feel like anything is stretching here, walk your hands a step closer to your knees. And if you still don't feel like you're feeling any stretch, you're going to keep walking them closer to your knees. So you're going to stop when just in your table you feel that stretch. And then just a very little gentle pressure into your hands once you've reached that point. Hold it here for a second. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to press down through the tips of your fingers, down into the floor, and let that pressure kind of spread throughout your whole palm. So the fingertips, the whole fingers, the palm. Just press it into the floor and press with quite a bit of engagement. Let's say 70% of how hard you could be pressing into the floor. And just hold it here for another moment. And then let that tension go. You can sit back towards your heels. If you need to shake out your wrists, you can do that. And I know kind of wrist strengtheners are not always the most exciting thing ever, but it's really been helping me with some of my balance poses, arm balance poses, which I'm terrible at, but that has been helping me. So I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to share it with you, whether you like it or not. So we will now go back to just normal old yoga. Extend your right leg out behind you and tuck your toes under. Drop that foot all the way to the floor. Now take your left hand, crawl the fingers straight forward as far as you can. You can come right on the tips of your fingers. So fingertips and toe tips are connected to the floor. And now just rock yourself slightly forward and back a few times. And then pause it back in the center. Decide if you want to work a little harder, a little more on your balance. Lift the arm, lift the leg up, come into full balancing table. You want to think of one straight line from tips of the fingers to the bottom of the foot. And if you still want to work on balancing a little bit, just very slightly, very slightly, rock yourself forward like a 1/4 of an inch. Rock yourself back like a 1/4 of an inch. So just rock yourself forward and back Please don't take it too far. We don't need to spill over onto our face. Good. And then bring the knee down, bring the hand down. And extend your left leg out behind you. Press all the way through that heel, get that leg as straight as you can. Walk, and tuck the toes under, drop the foot down. Walk your right hand forward so that that arm is extended as far forward as works for you. Rock yourself forward and back a couple of times. See if there's any really interesting spots you hit on. Maybe in the calf or the hamstring. And then pause. If you went for it on the first side, try it again. Lift up the leg, lift up the arm. Keep your gaze looking down at your mat so you're not overarching your neck. If you want that last little bit of challenge, just a very slight rock it forward, rock it back. Good. Set the hand down, set the knee back down. And then set your hips onto your heels. Stretch your arms out in front of you in child's pose. You can always do a different version of child's pose if this one does not work for you. Bring yourself back forward. We'll just pass through table. And then we'll start to just walk the hands a little bit forward, walk the knees a little bit back, and come all the way down onto your belly. Good. Laying down flat on the belly. Bring your hands underneath your shoulder. You want your fingertips pointing forward. So just hands right under those shoulders. You can bring your forehead or your chin down on the floor. Now lengthen your legs. Make them nice and long. They don't have to be touching one another. They can be anywhere you like. Just make them long and press them down into the floor. Draw your elbows into your sides. Before we do any lifting or anything like that, try bringing the shoulders way up by the ears, like you're shrugging your shoulders. And then press them back and all the way down your back. Big shoulder roll right there. With your next inhale, now we're just going to press a little bit into the hands. Lift your head up off the mat. Baby cobra. Lower your head back down. And then inhale, lift the head back up. So we're going to move in and out of our baby cobra. And you can decide if, as you lift and lower, maybe you want to start lifting a little higher. Maybe you want to keep it lower. When you next lift, hold it here. Keep those elbows pressing toward one another, so they're right in your sides. Pressing the tops of your feet into the mat. One more breath here. And as you release the breath, lower down. Bring your hands in to whatever position is comfortable to support your head. Bend your knees. And we always windshield wiper, so let's do something different. Try making a few circles with your feet. Just move your feet, the whole lower portion of your leg. Make some circles there. If you want to keep making circles and let your feet move side to side while you make some circles, try that out. Lower those feet back down to the floor. Hands back underneath your shoulders. We're just going to press up and back through table. And then just take your left foot, step it forward, bring it between your hands. Now those back set of toes, they can stay tucked under if you like that better for balance, or you can have the top of your foot flat on the floor. And tips of your fingers or palms on your mat. Now lengthen out your spine here and let your pelvis just be nice and heavy. Do some of the work here. Keeping everything as it is, just let your chin come in towards your throat and let your head hang here for a moment. So get a nice long back of the neck. And let your rest of your body kind of catch up with us being in a more upright position. And then lift the head back up, climb your hands onto your front leg. Lift that upper body upward. If it works for your legs, your hips, everything, let yourself sink slightly forward so that back leg starts to get even longer. Now, as you next inhale, find a slight arch in your back, like you're making cow. And as you next exhale, find a little rounding to your back like you're doing cat. Good. Now let's move back and forth. Inhaling to our lunging cow, exhaling to our lunging cat. Not going to be as big as it would be if you were just seated. We were a little bit restricted here. Pause it back in the center. And it's been a little while since we've done that arm thing here. So drop your arms down by your side. And then slowly bring the fingers to the shoulders. Lift the arms up overhead. Exhale, bring the fingers down. Straighten the arms out. We'll just do that one more time because we've got a whole nother leg. Reach up. And all the way down. This time you can bring the fingers down to the floor. Draw that knee back underneath you. And we'll step our right foot forward. Come into lunge on this side. We'll do just that little bit of resting here again. Let your head be nice and heavy. Chin towards throat. Notice how the breath lands in your body when you're kind of compressing everything inward like this. Head coming up first, and then one hand to your leg and then the other. Come on up. Sink yourself a little bit further forward if that feels okay in your psoas. And then as you inhale, just a little bit of a back bend. As you exhale, a little bit of a rounding. Move it in and out. Pausing back in that neutral spot. If you want to sink a little further, go for it. Bring your hands down by your sides. Lift the hands to the shoulders. Lift them all the way up. Bring them back down and release. Just once more. Bring those hands down to the floor, and let's go ahead, frame that front foot. Tuck your back toes under and lift your back knee. We're just going to step that back foot forward. Take as many hops, many steps as you need to come to 2 feet in your forward fold. And we've done not a whole stretching of the backs of our legs. So if you need to, bend those knees. Bend them a lot. Bringing your hands up onto your thighs, just right above the kneecaps. And just work those legs just a little bit straighter. Keep a little bend in them if that still feels good. Press into your hands, straighten your elbows. Come into this halfway lift, a little bit higher of a halfway lift than usual. Walk your hands up a little higher and come all the way up. Standing on your 2 feet, hopefully you're standing on 2 feet. Bring your feet underneath your hips. Pressing down, but lifting everything else up. So crown of the head lifts for the sky. As you next inhale, send the arms forward and all the way up. We're going to stay here with our arms lifted for a few breaths. So if straight up out of the shoulder doesn't feel that great, just let them come a little wider. Lift your sternum a little higher. As you exhale, draw the arms forward and down. We'll do a little bit of balance here since we're standing on 2 feet. Might as well do some balance. So back into those mountain feet, feet under your hips. Bring your hands on to your hips to support your balance. And then just lift your heels up off the mat. Set your heels back down. Weight even on the foot once again. And then shift your weight into the front of the foot. Lift the heels. And bring it all the way back down. This time, as you lift your heels, bend your elbows, bring your fingers to your shoulders. Decide if you want to lift the arms all the way up and make that balance even more challenging. Now lower your heels just halfway to the floor. Bring your fingers to your shoulders. Heels are still lifted, they're just halfway. Set the feet all the way back down. Release your arms. Shake out your left foot. Shake out your right foot. I'm not laughing at you guys. It's just so funny to be doing yoga with people, but in a silent room. So know that I am not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the funny situation we are all living in today. Bring your hands onto your hips. Take your right foot. Step it back. Now don't step it back into a super mega huge lunge. Step it back about a foot. And then just come right up onto the ball of that back foot. So it's going to be a little bit bouncy still. And if this feels okay and you're ready for any more balance, try bringing just the tips of your toes onto the floor. And if that just sent your chest super far forward, see if you can kind of slowly bring yourself back upright. Now find just a very slight bend in both knees, very slight. Both front knee and back knee, just a little bend. Straighten both legs. And step that back foot forward. If that side was balancy hard, make sure that your feet are wide enough when you step back. don't want to be walking on a tightrope. Step the left foot back. Just step onto the whole foot to start. And then you can lift the back heel, come onto the ball of the foot. Decide if you'd like to go for a little more and come onto the tips of the toes. Bring the chest back if you're leaning super far forward. And find that little baby bend in the knees. All the while, we're trying to keep our hips level. Straighten back out through both legs. Step the back foot forward. And inhale the arms straight forward and up. As you exhale, draw the arms back down, little bend in the knees with a flat back, bring it forward. Come all the way into a forward fold. And your hands can just dangle, or you can hang on to opposite wrists, or fingers can press into the floor also. Staying in your forward fold, keep your left leg straight. Find a little bend in the right knee. Now straighten out that right leg. Find a little bend in the left leg. Now bend both legs. Step back to one knee. Step back to both knees. And then, I completely lost track of what I was going to say. And then, sit back on your heels and just bring yourself back to seated. Bring the soles of your feet together out in front of you. Bound angle. Walk those heels in as close as you like. So the closer in they come, the more stretch you're going to get on the inside. Further out, you get it on the outside of the hip. Drop your right hand down to the floor. And then take your left fingers, bring them on to your shoulder. Start to lean that upper body slightly over to the right and decide if you want to go a little deeper. Maybe even lifting the left elbow up a little higher, maybe even to point up towards the sky. If all your weight just shifted over onto the left part of your bottom, or the right part of your bottom, try to reorganize yourself so you're equally weighted. With your next inhale, come all the way up. Hand comes back to the floor. And then right fingers come on to the right shoulder. Leaning that upper body over to the left. Elbow either at your side or lifting upward. Try to relax that top part of your shoulder. Don't let it bring the elbow up. Let that all be extension through the side of your body and your ribs. If you have that elbow lifted, bring it down first. Then bring yourself back to center. Bring those knees in together and roll it down onto your back. Feet on the floor, knees bent. We'll come back to a twist, let ourselves sit in it for a little bit longer than when we were warming up. So walk your feet out. They're about the width of your mat. Slide your arms away from your body, maybe all the way to the height of your shoulders, so you're making a T with your body. And send your knees over to the right. Your head can turn to look in any direction. So different directions that you can turn your gaze. It's just going to change your experience. There's no real right and wrong. Pick the one that feels nice. If you'd like a little bit more stretch in that top leg, then take your right foot and perch it on top of your left knee. Really feel the presence of your breath in the side of your body. If you have your foot on your knee, go ahead and let that come back to the floor. Send the knees to center. And then send them the other way, over to the left. Wiggling them into place, making sure that nothing feels any pain or pinching. For that deeper variation, if you'd like on this side, bring the left ankle on to the right knee. Again, we're feeling the breath in the side of the body, this time the right side of the body. Maybe all the way down to the front of your right hip. And when your twist feels complete, bring the foot up off the knee if that's where it's sitting. Let the knees come back to center. Allow your body to move through any final movements or stretches. Anything yoga or anything not yoga. Settled into your pose for Shavasana. Bring awareness back to your breath. Noticing how the breath moves throughout your body. Each inhale and exhale, letting it get a little bit softer. When you're ready to release the control of your breath, just let it move in and out in whatever way feels calming and peaceful. Finding a deeper breath. Letting your awareness just begin to shift back into your physical self. Finding the movements that you need to help this process. Starting small, fingers, toes, or a gentle nod to the head. And the need for larger movements starts to come in, and just listen and follow along with what your body needs. Eventually making your way over to one side. And coming all the way back up to seated when you are ready. Dropping your hands down by your sides and inhaling to bring them all the way up overhead. Press your palms together, lowering them down towards your heart, bowing your head to the light that you carry within you. I thank you for joining me here in my room and me in your rooms. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening. Namaste until I see you next. And thank you to everybody who's watching this later on the video.